No Jumper, coolest podcast in the world. And today I'm extremely excited to be having a sit down with Brandon Novak.
What's happening, brother? How are you?
How you feeling, man?
Good, man. I'm stoked to be in the building.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
I don't know if I ever seen anybody come in here with a coffee bean cup.
Yeah, I'm a tea guy. So it's the fake out. I only drink tea. I don't fuck with coffee.
You left the caffeine behind at some point?
Kinda. I loved London, right? And I spent a lot of time in London, so I got into tea there.
Okay.
And I just kind of adopt. Even when I was like shooting dope and shit, I was still like a tea guy.
Right.
So it was consistent throughout my life. So
well, I mean, yeah. Does like a meth head drink coffee?
I don't know, but I was the kind of guy that would like go in the bathroom and you know, on bad days and shoot a bag of dope in the like toilet with the water and then go do a shot of wheatgrass. Right. So I was just going about life in a different way.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Totally. Okay. So let's go from the beginning, just for anybody who's not totally familiar with your storyline and everything. You were born in Maryland?
Yeah. Baltimore.
In Baltimore. And what was life like? You growing up in the suburbs or more in the city?
No, well, I grew up in the suburbs, but I came from you know, a family that did the best they could with what they had, right? And for a long time, I thought that was like the thing that really held me back and crippled me. But I just didn't really. I had a skewed vision of what I thought reality was. But now, having done work, I see it for what it is, and what that looked like for me is I had a father who was around just enough to like let us know he wasn't around. He rode with the Hells Angels.
Oh, okay.
He never had a job a day in his life, and he taught me one thing in life, and that was like if I went to prison, how to conduct myself.
Really? So was he talking to you as if prison was almost like a certainty?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. You know, kind of being groomed.
Yeah.
In retrospect, looking back,
because like myself, I grew up thinking of prison as like something that statistically almost impossible to happen, but then also like nobody was around to give me game about it for sure. But I've talked to a lot of people over the years where their parents, they almost feel like they're being kind of groomed for it in a way where like their parents are telling them about it and not making it sound like this is the worst case scenario, but this is just something that you're probably going to go through at some point.
So it's interesting you say that because I had that dynamic in my household. My father, that was like, you know, the equivalent to a kid going to school, right? Like that was the norm for him. He'd get popped with his buddies and do time. And I remember being a kid, my grandmother, which is his mother, would take me in and we'd have to bring cigarettes into him because he was like a bad gambler and he always owed people money. So that was the norm. But on the flip side of that coin, my mother got her very first job at the age of 15 at Mercy Hospital in Baltimore City, drawing blood for $5 a pop, right? And she worked her way up the ladder to become a nuclear physicist on the board of that hospital.
Wow.
So, right, like I saw right from wrong, and I had a very clear picture of depending on what decision I made, what path I would go on. But I believe I was genetically predisposed because my father was an addict and his father was an addict.
Okay, yeah.
My mother, my brother or sister who were by a different guy had no issues.
Really? Wow, that's interesting that it's.
And then I had a brother. I have a brother who's an attorney in the White House.
Really?
And he practices pensions and benefits. And the craziest thing about it is that my mother today says I'm the most sane out of all the family members.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? What the hell are they doing? They got normal jobs and shit?
Well, they do, but you know, I don't know. Society sometimes can get really hung up on things that I don't really think are that big of a deal.
Right. Well, also like once you've gone through recovery and everything, a lot of times you could find yourself kind of like forcing yourself to stay in a pretty limited parameter of like different choices. You're not going and doing some crazy out of the ordinary shit. You're kind of trying to take it day by day and stay the course, right? Which is gonna, you know, I also just feel like somebody like you've done so much crazy shit, been through so much shit that a lot of this stuff doesn't hold as much appeal at this point, that you're very happy and thankful and excited to live a sort of boring life by a lot of people's standards, you know?
You spot it, you got it, right? And obviously there's some kind of connection with you and I in some kind of realm for you to see that.
Well, I feel like I'm in the same position because like, even though I was never like a hardcore addict or alcoholic, I still like did a lot of it, lived a crazy lifestyle. And now at this point can kind of look back at that and be like, whoa, I'm so happy and thankful to be able to just go to work every day and have a family and just have a nice chill existence.
Legit.
I was kind of like forcing myself into the chaos for such a long time. You know?
That was my identity.
Yeah.
You know, and you took that away from me, and I had no idea what I was going to do, what direction I was headed in. And today, like, the things that I love are going to the grocery store, right? Taking care of my cats, right? My clean sheets, a clean bed, just a real simplistic shit in life, because that's one thing that wasn't really consistent in my life was consistency.
Yeah.
I would end up, I lived a life where I was basically on spring break, like that was on steroids and meth for like the better part of 20-ish years.
Right.
So I was pretty disconnected from reality, you know, and when I got sober at 38, like, I was in a bad way.
Do you think that you, as a young dude, saw skating as kind of like your version of whatever your dad was getting out of, you know, being in a biker gang in a way? Because it gives you this independence. All of a sudden you're going places, you're doing things, you're being introduced to all these different characters. A lot of them are kind of seedy and, you know, a little weird, but like ultimately that's kind of, you know, I see the two as probably having a lot of parallels, right?
They really do.
Yeah.
And I talk about that often. I got my first skateboard at the age of 7. And I had no desire to want to be a skater to that point. My sister, my father, his behavior was erratic and sporadic at best. And my mother was working her way up that corporate ladder. And my brother was busy. So my mom would send me with my brother and sister, and I'd go live with them at the beach at like this 7-year-old kid riding a bike, just doing shit a 7-year-old probably shouldn't be doing alone. And one day she took me to the skate park to go visit this dude. I had never even thought of the word skateboard. And I go there and she's talking to this guy, and looking back, he was just hooking up with my sister. So he's like, "Here, kid, you want this skateboard?" And the moment that board touched my hand, like, I knew this was what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And there was no reason for like a plan B, a trait, or an option. And at that age, skateboarding did for me then what drugs and alcohol would do for me later, right? Like, you give me that skateboard at the age of 7, you put me in a room with the world's prettiest models, I'll not only believe that they've been waiting for me, but that they're dying to marry me, right? Like drugs and alcohol would produce that same delusional narrative later on down the line that I believed was reality.
But skating gave you that confidence?
100%.
Once you got good at it, or kind of from the beginning? From
the beginning, because it gave me everything that I didn't have and lacked in my home, right? It gave me this sense of community. It gave me this sense of love, and kindness, and empathy, and connection. Yeah. And it wasn't like that in my house.
Yeah. And I feel like a big part of it is just like proving to yourself that you can learn things and be good at things. Like for me, it was BMX bikes. I spent like 20 years riding BMX bikes every day, but learning to just do a trick just gave me this like confidence that I could do other things in life that I never really had that feeling before. And especially just having to like hurt for it, having to like damage your body and like fall and like kind of like prove to yourself that you're resilient. That process to me in entrepreneurship or anything you want to achieve in life, that's kind of the whole deal.
I accredit skateboarding as to who I am and why I'm where I'm at in life today. I think from outside perspectives, one might think that I'm like this pretty successful guy who has it really put together. And I do in a lot of regards. But in my mind, I'm still waiting for like the grown up to show up and handle everything. But skateboarding and BMXing, you know, very similar culture. In skateboarding, the word no was not an option, right? Failure was unacceptable. And we try a trick for days, weeks, months, and sometimes years, and we continue to fall. And so I was out of the gate used to not being successful. Right. And that's how I got to where I'm at today through process of elimination, but backwards. I failed so miserably long at everything I tried that ultimately the last thing I tried was the first thing that worked. Right. I had just kind of got to this place where I was optionless. I was hopeless. I was moneyless. I was fucking loveless. And finally it created the appropriate amount of pain where it became so unbearable. I was willing to do what I had never done before, which was look at me in the mirror and accept my reality and look at the part that I played and see that I'm the common denominator in every one of my problems. Right. And for the better part of 20-ish years, I've simply just rearranged the furniture on the Titanic.
Yeah.
Right. And I refuse to let go of that sinking vessel because like, it's not what the I do.
Wait, so how long were you skating before you really started around with drugs and alcohol?
So coming from Baltimore, and you'll probably know, like there's another skater by the name of Bucky Lasik, who's a legend, and he recognized the talent that I had at a young age.
Really? Okay.
He brought me under his wing.
Wow. Okay.
And that's how I ended up skating for Pal Peralta.
But he was like a vert guy later, but at this time, was he more like doing
Street
everything?
Transition.
Okay. Got it.
And I'm like I was a transitions guy.
You know, at that time.
Ramp.
Okay.
Yeah. Street, mini ramp, not vert.
Because this is like what year?
This is, again, life's been a blur for a long time, but 91 to between 90 to 94.
Kind of rare to be like a pro street skater at the time. Like you kind of had to ride ramps.
They
and shit,
existed,
right? Yeah.
but Tony Hawk was still like, you know, the end all be all.
Right. Okay. And so, yeah, like, so he takes you under his wing and then you get on Powell, and then where does it kind of go from there?
So
you moved to California right away?
No, I never moved to California. I spent a lot of time out here at Santa Barbara where the Powell warehouse was.
Right.
And
that was like the brand of the time, right?
That was it. Like, you know, we'd stay at Hawk's house, you know, during the summer. And it was like a life that I had dreamed of from that 7-year-old kid. When I got that board, like I knew that that's what I was going to become. And throughout that timeline, we started going to the skate park in Pennsylvania called Sheep Skates, which is where I met Bam. And that's kind of like the trifecta of how I ended up ultimately on Viva La Bam and Jackass, living with him. And
definitely.
So that career kind of, you know, does its deal. And every year there was this contest at at Brick Skate Park in Bricktown, New Jersey. And either I would win or Bam would win. And he was the exact same as me. We dressed alike, we skated alike, we acted alike.
So Bam, when you met him, was he the dude? Like he was?
No, he wasn't sponsored at the time.
Really? Okay.
So this was like before he was sponsored. Bucky was already pro for POW. Bucky got me on Flow. So I'm just getting product for free, wheels. And then I get turned to the amateur. So I'm like amateur for them. And during that time, we were going to the skate park called Cheap Skates, which is where we met Bam, but he wasn't sponsored.
Okay.
He was just a kid at the park whose father would come film him with the VHS camera.
Wow.
And as soon as I met him, I'm like, dude, this guy's gonna be my problem, because he was me and just a consistent skater and a contest skater, and we became thick as thieves, right? And we'd go up during the weekends and stay at his house, and his Phil and Ape would like make us breakfast, and we'd skate all day, and his father would film us with the VHS camera. And
that's sick.
And so one year, that contest that him and I would always battle at, Bam's been practicing, he's there, Bucky's there, and I'm not. And Bam goes up to Bucky and is like, yo, where's Novak? And Bucky's like, I think he's on heroin. And Bam was like, what's that? Because he's at that age, you know, he's not even there.
Holy shit. And you're that deep into it already that you're doing heroin.
Yeah.
And you're what age at this time?
End of 16, 17.
Holy shit. So you started that early. Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And again, looking back, it's not that crazy, because the life that I was brought up in, like at 7, 8 years old, my father would take me to the strip joint with him, and he'd be in the back conducting business, and they'd put me at the bar stool, and the dancing girls would pour shots of ginger ale and Coca-Cola and shot glasses. And I'm doing those, and the chicks are applauding. My father's like, that's my boy.
Holy shit.
You know, and I was genetically predisposed, right? So I couldn't like dodge this deal that was coming down the pipe.
But it's one thing to be drinking, like alcohol has a grip on skateboarding culture that like a lot of people don't understand.
Legit.
And really, you could look at like a lot of different areas in skateboarding where the cool dudes and the cool brands and the cool imagery was very alcohol associated. Almost feel like we're getting past that now in a way, right? I feel like drinking is less cool than people drink like crazy, but it's like less cool now. Like we see that statistically people are drinking way less, especially young people now, which is kind of insane. Now, granted, a lot of that is them doing other stuff, but
they've graduated.
Yeah. I mean, if you're doing weed and ketamine and shit like that, I guess that makes alcohol seem a little less necessary. I also feel like skateboarding industry wise, probably like kind of sees all the alcohol imagery as problematic at a certain point. Like, I mean, a lot of
it has to be from a business perspective if you own that, right? Like,
as soon as you're worried about getting sued.
Yeah, I own businesses. Yeah. You know, it's funny. I fucking grew up skating and destroying public property, skating on every building known to man.
Yeah,
and I have this new building. I just opened a new treatment center and I own all these businesses, and I pull into the parking lot the other day before it's opened, and I see this BMXer, and he's doing wall rides on my wall, and I'm like,
the most damage inducing thing you could do is just scraping those tires against the wall. The black rainbow, as they call it. Yeah,
and I'm like, what the? And I was like, me, like, I of all people. Now, the world has a way of right sizing you.
Yeah,
right. Things just evolve.
Good on you for having
straight up.
Like, I've rented a lot of spots and owned a few spots, but none that has ever been skater rideable. So luckily,
you dodged that
with that at least a little bit. Yeah, that's crazy. But I mean, but okay. So,
but going back real quick. No, please.
I'm just like so hyped to be talking to you that I'm kind of like overflowing.
I get like that too. So bear with me. Sure. I might cut in just because I'll forget shit and I get excited. But the alcohol and kind of the industry of skating, and I was on Mikey Taylor's podcast or something. We talked a lot about this, and the piss drunks, right? Like they made that Sid Vicious, you know, and Ramones, like that's it. And now 9 out of 10 of them are sober, right? And Eric Ellington, who's a dear friend of mine, who is a sober guy. I love what he's doing. He's ahead of his time on this, but he's just created a non-alcoholic beer called Easy Does It. Shout out, man.
Oh,
and it's just such an outside perspective. And he's like, I'm not coming in and telling the skate world, don't drink, because we're those people. You tell me what not to do, I'm going to tell you why you need to off.
Jamming it down their throat never going to really get you where you want to go.
No,
you just need to actually create a culture in which it's not fetishized.
It's not
viewed as cool, you know?
Yeah.
If the coolest skater in the world is some dude who does yoga in the park and says in his interviews that he thinks drinking's lame, that's the best thing. Yeah. It's like, if that guy is the coolest skater in the world is the one who's kind of like telling everybody else in the skate world like what to think, and if he rejects drinking, like, and I've seen that, like, one of the things I'm most lucky about in my life is the fact that I, as a 12-year-old, was really into straight edge hardcore.
Damn.
And it just modeled for me like, oh, this is like how you're a cool dude in your 20s who doesn't drink,
which shows how important it is who the you hang with.
It was
and
trendy.
How influential things can become.
Being sober was trendy when I was growing up, at least in that world, which is not something you can say about many segments of our culture, you know?
But I live by attraction rather than promotion, right? Like, I am never going to tell you what to do, but what my goal and my objective is to deliver my whole approach and the way that I go about my life in a way that people find so appealing and desirable that they then want to be a part of it. Because when people that think outside the box, when we choose to be a part of or proactive in whatever we're into, we kill it. We kill it. But it has to be my idea.
Yeah.
Right? That culture is like, you tell me what I need to do, I tell you I need to off. So yeah, I think that culture played a part in it. But really, once I really started drinking and drugging like I like to, there was no skating, right? It got in the way.
Yeah.
I couldn't be productive. I couldn't show up on time for flights. I couldn't finish tours. I couldn't like get clips and put together a part. Right? That requires me to be reliable and dependable, which is everything addiction isn't.
When you moved to Santa Barbara, was that when you started like really getting introduced to actually doing all these different drugs and stuff? Is that when it kind of got ramped up? Because you're around older dudes and shit. So all of a sudden you might be 14, but you're around a dude who's 25 and he's way more advanced than you are.
No, it is. I was, and you would think that could play out, but it didn't. Okay. I was just so in love with my God-given talent, which is skating, that like I had tunnel vision.
Really?
And people were doing that, but it just didn't really vibe with me. It was like later in life, I believe, when things were really going good, that more responsibilities came, that I decided I kind of wanted to check out.
Really? Okay.
And then having this up, I believe, disease already before I realized it, it made me think differently than society does.
Right. So Bam just he hears that you're on heroin, but then he invites you into his crew regardless. Or how does this go?
So that's, he continues to pursue skateboarding, becomes a household name. It creates the CKY videos that then turn into Viva La Bam, then Jackass.
Which was so surreal for us because I'm watching the CKY VHS tapes in, I don't know, like 97 or 8 or something like that. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's a TV show coming out with those dudes from those CKY tapes. And we're just cannot wrap our head around it because the stuff on those tapes is so controversial and up and they're destroying the rental car. And
today it's cancel culture.
Yeah, like it's just like they give that guy a show. Like it was so mind blowing to us. Yeah, and then and
a lot of those tapes came from the father Phil's VHS camera.
Oh, really?
Like legit, just Phil was like the father of the year and just followed him around filming all the time.
You remember the BMX brand Little Devil?
Yeah, that Ryan Dunn loved that.
Yes,
he rocked that shit all the time.
And we thought that was
I have a sick tattoo done here.
Oh shit! There you go.
Yeah, he always had those Little Devil shirts.
Exactly, and that's
he was like the worst BMXer ever.
Right, and that was like one of the coolest brands of that era. And that's part of it is like, whoa, like they're friends with the CKY dudes. Like that's insane. Like how the are they tapped in with them? Like, because BMX kind of was like its own island. Like, the cultures didn't like overlap at that time. So we thought that was the coolest thing in the world.
And Dunn was like, and Dunn was like a legend in his own mind at like with cars, with bikes, and really he just was like not a good BMXer, which played out well for what we were doing because like we'd, Van would like set up a ramp and have him and just ride this bike into a humongous tree, right? Like not for a good out, just like
for sure. No, I mean, just so
that's
things.
The only reason why I know Little Devil is because Dunn would consistently wear that shirt all the time. So anyways, I'm Bam becomes a household name.
During the CKY era, how big was he? Was he like hometown hero, like photos in magazines? He's sponsored during CKY, and then Jackass comes out and he's gigantic.
All throughout that time, he's the photos. So the skating kind of went parallel with this CKY stuff.
Got it.
And then the CKY videos organically were the first thing that he made his first $1 million on.
Really? He was up like that back then. Wow.
So, and that just kind of paralleled with the endorsements of the companies. And then he just literally, Wheaties commercial, in Right Guard.
By the time Jackass became real successful, though, was he kind of like past the pro skateboarder thing?
No, it's kind of.
No, he was still going. Okay.
Yeah, and his boards were like hand over fist. I think he was outsold Hawk.
Hell yeah,
for board sales.
So
for a while.
When you first came into the content, what were you doing?
So now that's Bam's trajectory.
Yeah.
I choose to pursue heroin and I completely go to the depths. And now I avoid skateboarding like you coming across the one that got away, right? Like I don't want to know that she's there. I don't want to know who she's married to. It's still her. Skateboarding was that for me. And I remember being in rehabs and my therapist would be like, we're going to have some people send you in some like skateboard magazines, maybe that. And I'm like, that, I get really angry.
Yeah.
So I avoided it. And now I'm like this homeless dope fiend in Baltimore. I'm like legit living in abandoned houses, stealing, the whole deal. Wow. And I never would go to the skate shop. I didn't want them to see me like this. I still had that pride, that ego of who I used to be and lived in this delusional world, legend in my own mind kind of shit. But one day things got really bad and I could not come up with money to save my life. And I did what I had never done before. And I went to Select Skate Shop in Fells Point in Baltimore City. And I went in there hoping to play off their kindness and just get a few bucks to shoot some dope. And they're like, we're not going to give you money, but Bam happened to be here yesterday on tour with the Toy Machine team. And he asked if we ever saw you. We said no, because we don't. And he said, here, give him my number and let him know if he wants to get off heroin and start skating again to call me. And I took that number and a few weeks later I called. And that night he had me on a Greyhound bus from Baltimore to Philly and let me live with him at his mother's house. And I'm trying to detox off dope and
cold turkey.
Yeah. And he's filming it. Right. And there's a decent amount of that is on the behind the scenes in the CKY movies.
Oh shit.
And, there was always a camera around.
But is it weird because Bam, especially at that time, doesn't really understand what the you're doing or coming off of? Like
it's weird, but not to us at the time.
Okay.
So my rule that I had to follow at that time and moving forward was that I couldn't do any opiates, but I could drink and I could do blow and it was okay. But at first it was like no drinking, like nothing. And then as time went on, they realized like I wasn't going to not do that. So they bartered with me and then I could drink and then I could do blow. And because they didn't understand the magnitude of addiction and they were doing the best they could with what they had.
Yeah.
It would work for a little bit. And then I would make an excuse to go back to Baltimore and I'd disappear into the projects for weeks and months. And that was kind of a wash, rinse, repeat. But that was how I ended up in the CKY videos. And then he gave me a spot on, I didn't even get a higher position on Viva La Bam. How I ultimately ended up being a character on there was at this point I kind of like solidified my position within the crew and I was Bam's best friend and I'm living with him and I'm just this crazy insane ex-heroin addict and he would call me his walking TV and I would do whatever during the sets when they're filming and I was completely unruly. I would not listen. I was feral and they're trying to figure out a way to get me to listen to them, right? The production crew of MTV and filming these and they realized they couldn't do it and I'm not being paid. And Bam just kind of insists that I have these little sets, cameos here and there. And one day they come to me and they're like, Novak, we understand that we can't control you because we're not your bosses because you don't work for us. So we're going to pay you. We're going to hire you. And that means now that you have to listen to us. So unbeknownst to me, I kind of worked I muscled my way into a position
right
to where they could control me.
But so was that like night and day where all of a sudden you just started taking it serious and paying attention?
No. Quite the contrary. Like that in theory, that's a great idea,
right?
But in reality, logic doesn't stand a chance against my addiction. And so now it's rad. It does a lot for my esteem, right? Because now I feel like I'm part of something.
Yeah.
And nonetheless, I give everything my all because if I'm weighing the scales of justice, okay, I can do this, be on a successful show, become a household name, get paid, or I just go back to Baltimore and like shoot dope and be homeless. So I was that guy that was down to do anything. And my up mind was like, well, for a lot of stunts that people didn't want to do, I'm like, I'll do it. Not because like I was excited about the stunt, but remember, I could only do blow and drink. And what I want is heroin or pills. So if I get hurt and I go to the hospital and they write me a script, that's like a justified high where they allow me to do that.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a win-win.
But it's also like, I mean, snorting coke and drinking is like you're out, you're up, you're partying, but like heroin, like I've never done it, but I assume you do it and you're kind of just slinking into the chair and
which is what I
not
love.
Leaving the house.
Just like sucking my own cock. Like,
oh, you love that. Yeah,
I'm a downtown kind of. So I'm doing that, but I'm not getting like the enjoyment that I want.
Got it. Yeah.
So I'm just settling, if you will.
Yeah. No, I feel it.
So yeah, my brain would come up with all these scenarios to like allow my addiction to just be prolonged. So that goes on for a little while, but now I'm like getting more scenes. I'm becoming known. I'm getting paid, and that money just again prolongs my addiction.
And at that point, you're like famous too, right? Is that kind of weird? Like you go to the bar, everybody wants to buy you drinks. Everything's different.
Yeah. The broads want to me. People want to drink with me. I don't have to pay.
You don't have a reason to doubt yourself anymore because everything is being handed to you and it's like coming along with the addiction. So it's not like you're doing so bad. A lot of people who get sober, it's because they're doing so bad that at some point they just get sick of this bullshit, right?
Which is exactly why I continue to dig my hole in this. Yeah. In this, like my hole just got deeper and deeper because now I understand the reality of my situation. At the time, I was completely unaware of the severity, right? I was ignorant to the fact. But I have this alcoholic brain that lies to me in my own voice, and it always makes me believe the unbelievable. So it's not like your voice comes in my head and you're like, Novak, you can have a glass of wine, and I'm like, you stranger danger. It's my voice in my head that will allow me to justify or minimize the severity of my reality because that's the job, to deflect it onto you, to her, to them. The last thing an alcoholic or an addict ever wants to do is to accept responsibility. That's why the fuck I get high, to escape this up reality that I've created by shooting dope all the time.
Right.
So that paired with now I'm on the show, and the broads want to fuck me, and I'm doing these things, and people are asking for photos. You are insane if you think I have a problem. Are you crazy? Right. You're the one with the problem. You know what I mean?
And so many of your heroes and people that you're kind of modeling yourself after are, you know, people that are partying and engaging in all kinds of wild shit, you know?
Yeah. So it wasn't headed in a great direction.
Yeah.
Although it was, you know, to the outside perspective, people were like, dude, this is it.
Right.
And, you know, a shameless plug, but I wrote Dream Seller first during living with Bam.
Right.
And I had no desire to write a book. I got my GED in the penitentiary. I was expelled in the 11th grade as a result of my addiction, right? School, it was not my deal. But we would film episodes. And after we'd done filming for the day, the cast and the crew would go to a pub, 40, 50 deep, and we'd be sitting at a humongous table drinking and Bam would be like, yo, Novak, tell this story. And he was very fascinated by the outcomes of my addiction, places it put me in, people I surrounded myself with. So I would tell this story and you could hear a pin drop. So before the deal was, when Bam brought me up there to live in his house and be on the show, was like I could do all that, but I could not do opiates or downers. But now he's like, there's a new deal. You can continue to live in the house, be on the show, drive a car, get paid, but you're going to write a book. You're going to take this notebook and you're going to take this pen and you are going to write a book. And I want to see that in your hand at all times. The first time even if you're not writing, the first time I don't see you with that notebook and pen in your hand, you're going back to Baltimore. Wow. So this was not by design that I want to be a fucking author. It was kind of, you know, it was a necessity because I didn't want to go back to being homeless in Baltimore.
Wow, that's crazy that Bam just like
straight up
kind of forced it upon you, but it almost seems like kind of unhealthy, but it sounds like it worked out.
It
like,
totally did.
It would be a bizarre ask of most people.
Yes. And in a full circle thing, that book, you know, and using the platform that I built throughout that career has now turned into so many people that reach out to me that said, I read your book. Like, if you can get sober, so can I.
Yeah.
Or I didn't want my story to get as bad as yours. If, you know, I can do it, you could type deal.
Yeah.
But the book after that was The Streets of Baltimore. And that really talks about the psychology of where I was at throughout this time of Viva La Bam. Because although I legit had the keys to the castle, right? I'm living the life that people would dream of. It was a really sad, depressing time because I knew that it was only a matter of time before I burnt this bridge to the ground.
Well, it's interesting you wrote this book before you recovered in any sense, right? Normally you write the book once you're sober, right? Like,
dude, I wrote that first book, Dream Seller, about sniffing an abundance of cocaine and drinking red wine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some Jack Kerouac shit.
Totally.
Did it in any way like motivate you to get clean? Like, I feel like having such a serious project that took so much time might have gave you a little bit more structure in your life, or no, these two things just went side by side?
Quite the contrary, right? Because I'm living with Bam. He wasn't allowed, like I was not allowed. Everyone knew that I was not allowed to do opiates, which I really wanted. So I couldn't go back to Baltimore. People were like eyes on me. But writing that book was very therapeutic in a way that allowed me to go back and do that without doing it. So in a sick, perverse way, it took me to where I really wanted to be at the time, which was shooting dope in Baltimore, as opposed to like being on this #1 TV show and this beautiful blessing that Bam has provided for me.
At that time, where was Bam at in his alcohol addiction?
He's just kind of doing his deal, right? Like he's going through the gamut of like becoming that guy.
Yeah.
#1, like again, Right Guard commercial, Wheaties box. Like, so with that, it's inevitable that the limelight of the Hollywood kind of socialite life shows up.
That's a lot of pressure right there. Yeah. All of a sudden you're like actually one of the most famous people your age in America. I mean, that's a big load to carry. Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine it.
Yeah.
And I was with him throughout the majority of that. And, it's heavy.
Yeah.
It's heavy. But at the time, we didn't see it. I didn't see it at that. Obviously, he felt something different than what I saw.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm sure the pressure was high. The stakes were heavy.
Right.
You know, I don't really want to talk about like where his downfall or what his shortcomings were. I think that's his job to do. But what I can say now is that he's like killing it.
He's doing great right now, but is he sober right now? Or?
I don't know.
Okay.
He's skating and he's killing it.
Yeah.
And he's consistent and he's happy.
Yeah.
And he's got like a really good girl in his life.
That's awesome. Hell yeah.
And he's just like, he's enjoying life from what I can tell, and kind of taken back to that kid I remember that just fell in love with skateboarding and nothing else mattered.
Yeah. That's awesome to see.
So
hell yeah. So okay, when does the Viva La Bam era kind of come to a close? Or
I don't even remember when, like, how that timeline played out. It just that then went into the Jackass stuff and
the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't have anything to do with the TV shows.
Okay.
And I wasn't in the first Jackass, but I was in 2 and 2.5 and 3 and
Got it.
3.5. And that was an amazing time as well. But again, it just, for me, it continued to just prolong the inevitable. And just kind of allowed me to procrastinate, avoiding or dealing with my situation at hand.
For sure. So during that whole era, though, you're just continuing to was it primarily a heroin thing, or
yeah, but like it was obviously I had to continue this momentum, so it was whatever I could do.
Yeah,
I loved red wine. Cocaine was amazing. Like that worked. To fill the void until I could get to like what I'm really in search of.
Right. Did you ever become a pill guy, or once you're a heroin guy, is the pills are kind of not as good?
Yeah. I mean, the pills are just kind of like an appetizer at that point.
Really? Okay.
If you will. It's there. It's not what I'd buy or I'm in search of, but let's kill some time.
But so during this whole era, do you go back to skateboarding at all, or it's completely over until you get sober?
Yeah, I do a little bit of skating. Like, Bam had a show, Bam's Unholy Union, where he marries his wife and they build this crazy ramp and Hawk comes in and I try to do this rainbow gap, and I'm not skating at all, and I use Bam's board and his shoes, and I get to 12 o'clock on it and I just come straight down and I break both my ankles, which and this was on the last day of filming, so most are like, I'm stoked, right? They take me to the hospital, and now I have tons of scripts. It was on the last day of shooting, so now I get workman's comp. So I'm just laid up in my house with a stack of scripts, and I'm getting like in $3 or $4 grand a month, like every couple weeks to just.
Holy shit!
Can't walk. I'm going to cop dope in the hood, and I remember one day I lost my crutches and it's snowing out and I'm dragging on my ass, like pushing myself up the alley. Holy I legit learned what it was like to have no feet.
I mean, just imagine
that visual.
But them just saying like, hey, here's enough money for you to live on, and here's a ton of free pills every month. Yeah. Like, what the like that would turn a lot of people into drug addicts that are not drug addicts.
Yeah, so I was really
holy shit.
And if you think about it again, and life is all just kind of live forward and learn backwards. So seeing it for what it is now, that whole position I was put in and character I played was a junkie's dream. Yeah. Right. Like the more outrageous I became, the more outlandish the antics are, the higher the ratings go, the more money I make, the more dope I shoot.
Wow.
So that's like, yeah. And I had some of the best times of my life during that, and throughout it, literally, it's weird because my life was like skateboarding, then heroin and like homeless, like prostituting my body, letting men blow me. Like my mother bought me a plot. Like things got really dark.
Holy shit. That's some serious shit to be open about. Damn.
Yeah. Like it got there. Yeah. And I'm very upfront about that. And I keep my past married to my present.
Do you feel like you have to be 100% transparent about the lowest lows that you experience in order to like really let people know how this goes?
Not even to let people know, not about letting people know, but keeping me like in reality.
Because otherwise you could be painting a fake version of your experience, and that, I guess, wouldn't feel true to yourself.
That, but also understanding the magnitude of alcoholism and addiction for me, the better my life gets, the more I'll forget that pain that put me in that position to ask for help and follow through with it over 10 years ago. Right. Because my life is extremely different today. Yeah. Right. Like I have all the things that I wanted when I came into recovery and I prayed to God for. Right. I have the money, the property, the prestige, the businesses, best shape I've ever been in physically, mentally, psychologically, spiritually, financially. Like I'm aces, and my alcoholism can use that against me and be like, well, you're in bed by 9, you're totally involved with recovery, you own treatment centers, you own houses, you could have a drink with this $1,000 dinner tonight of wine, because you're well versed, and that will play. I'm more susceptible to falling victim to that kind of shit today than I was when I was 20 days sober, sitting in a rehab like, am I going to make it? Yeah.
Because a lot of it is like, you just have to be uncomfortable to even want to get sober in the first place. What year is it, and what had to happen in order for you to actually take sobriety serious? And how many times you go to rehab over the years?
13 inpatient attempts. Wow. And lost count of outpatient.
Was it
detoxes.
People in your life, like Bam or like the producers or whatever, was it them a lot of times saying like, hey, like we want you to be a better version of yourself, so we're going to try to initiate this?
Yeah. In the beginning, the first handful of treatment centers I went to, it was only to prove why I didn't belong in those places.
Oh, okay.
Right. Completely closed-minded, closed-hearted, refusing to accept the similarities. And after I saw those people as my father, right? So I'm like, F you. Like, you want to send me to a building full of my fathers who like lied to us, who like totally abused us in a lot of different ways. And the reason why I did so good at everything I ventured into was to prove a point why I would never become that bum of a father. Right now I've completely accepted him and I love him, and I wish that he was alive for me to tell him that. But at the time, that's how I looked at that. So I went in there like proving a point why I didn't belong, and I would only focus on the differences.
Okay. So did you ever feel like any of them like really, do you ever get sober for like a nice chunk of time?
Never.
No, really? Never. Even with all the rehabs?
Never. Yeah. Like I would go in, the only time I stayed sober was this very last time. Yeah. So I would go in, sometimes very sincere and really give it my all. But I refuse to like not be able to drink wine, right? Like I'll stop shooting dope and coke. I get that brings me to my knees, and I'll stay away from the pills and the methadone, and like, I get it. But I'm not an alcoholic, right? I don't shake when I don't have it. I don't steal to get it. I'm not in need of it. And that would continuously happen, and the behavioral pattern would just show up, and I'd end up in the same outcome. Till finally, my sponsor at the end, he came to visit me in rehab. I had a hard time saying, yeah, I'm Brandon, I'm an alcoholic, because I didn't think that I was. And he goes, Novak, you're different. At the bottom of your wine glass is a needle every time. And I'm like, and I look back at the experience to that point, motherfucker, because I drink, and then you got to do blow. And then I get tired after a while. I need some Xanax to kind of landing gear
this all sounds very familiar. Yeah, that was like my average Friday night for a few years there, and then it became my average Friday, Saturday, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Legit. The justifying why like it's cool to do it Thursday, and
because drinking in and of itself seems like pretty cool when you're young or whatever, and then you introduce Coke, and it's like, oh, now I get it. This is how you stay out all night.
And we can do it longer. Yeah, right? The good time will never end.
Yeah, it was the bad combo. Yeah,
for sure. And that continued to happen until, like, for me, what happened was I'm 38 years old. I'm a homeless heroin addict. I want to kill myself on a daily basis, but I'm terrified to hurt myself in the process. My days are spent in standing on the corner of Eastern Avenue and Patterson Park in Baltimore City, letting men blow me for money to get dope. My nights are spent sleeping in a shooting gallery in West Baltimore. My mother has bought me a plot. She sold 3 homes to pay for me to go to 2 treatment centers. I've been medevac to multiple hospitals for multiple overdoses. Oof. I just came to after being on life support for 7 days at the same hospital that my mother was a nuclear physicist at, on the board, right? And I had my last rites read to me while in ICU. And they were going to, I was clinically dead so long that like it didn't look like I was going to make it through. And as they were going to pull the plug, my mother came in and used her weight with the position she held. And she said, "This is my son. Come on, like, Just give them a day. Give them a little bit of time. And
that's crazy.
And they fucking did. And they gave me that time. And I came to a couple days later, only to rip every tube out of my body. I had the catheter, I had the nose, right back to it. And I got to this place where the pain became so unbearable that I wasn't in fear of addiction anymore. Like, that was just par for the course. It was a Monday morning. I get it. Let's do it. What scared me into recovery was the fear of waking up tomorrow and living in this life that I created for myself and doing things I don't want to do to get what I need to get. And at that point, anyone that stood between me and another bag of heroin must and will go. And it was never personal. It was just business, because I was raised by a loving mother who taught me empathy and sympathy and compassion. But I'm at this point now where there's no return. And the woman I love the most, which is my mother, to this day, there's nothing I won't do for her. I got to a place where she said, this will be the last time we ever speak. So I'm 38 years old. I try to go to my mother's house, and the lock changed. That's a common theme in my story. The lock stopped working, right? And I knock on the door, and I see her come to the door, and it's her, my hotshot brother, that's that attorney in DC at the White House, and she's crying uncontrollably, and she's crying. My brother's kind of helping her get to the door, and they open the door, and my brother hands me a bag. And in this bag is every thing that I own in my life. At 38 years old, right? Skating for Pal, Viva La Bam, Jackass, a book, like insanely successful. At 38 years old, my brother hands me everything I own. And in this bag consists of 8 scarves, 2 jackets, 3 socks, a stick of deodorant, a needle, a spoon, and a passport. And that bag doubles as my pillow. And at that moment, a police officer comes around the corner, and he stops in front of my mother's house. He said, "Are you Mr. Novak?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "This is for you." And I opened it up, and it's a restraining order. And he said, "If I catch you on your mother's premises again, I will not be so kind." And it was at that moment I looked at my mother, and I said to her, my words held no more weight at that point, right? Like I didn't even believe the own bullshit I said to myself, and I didn't try to talk myself out of it, but I did look at her, and with all sincerity, I said, "Mom, do you hate me?" And she said, "No, sweetheart, I don't hate you, but I will no longer, I cannot love you to death anymore. You have to go." And my brother's acting as like a bouncer, kind of enforcing, because she was the woman that never said no to me. She prayed for me when I didn't pray for myself. She loved me when I didn't love myself. She'd feed me. She'd bathe me when I didn't do any of that for me. And my brother had to make her do what she didn't or would never have done. And I took that bag, and I'm walking up the street, and at 38 years old, in my mind, I want to be anywhere in the world, but in reality, I don't have any direction to go in.
Right.
No one's waiting for me. At this point in my life, people believe, for the safety of themselves, that it's way best to love me from a distance.
Yeah. Right.
People aren't inviting me home or looking forward to me showing up. It's just like,
right.
And that position created this a series of events take place that's too long for me to get into, but I get a DM from this chick who's in Florida, and she said, "I read your book and it saved my life." And I could give a less because I don't want mine right now. She said, "Why don't you come stay with me? All exclusive paid."
And did she know that you were still in a bad spot? Or
so I said, "Sure, I'll come, but I need some Xanax, some dope, and some coke." And she says, "No problem." Right? And red flag number 1, my book saved her life, but she's going to give me substances that kill mine. But I don't even give a at this point. And I do a little bit more research, and I find out she lives in a hotel. That's not a good look. And a little bit more research prevails. She's like a lady of the night or a dancer.
Okay.
2 things I have no problem with. I've seen me become both of them for like $10, right? But there's 2 requirements that I'm to fulfill when I touch down. She's paying for the flight. She's paying for the drugs. She wants to party, and she wants to. And now when I get there, I shoot dope. I sleep. I don't party. So I know I'm going to wear my welcome out really quick. I do not want to go. I don't want to go, but I'm at this place in my addiction where I no longer have the say-so of what I will or will not do. It tells me where to go and what to do. So before I begrudgingly go to BWI to get on this flight, I go to cop some dope from the boys because I don't want to get sick on this flight. And when I go to cop, the boys rob me. Right now, at this point, I have like a very similar pair of slacks that I have on now, that were nice if you overlook all the cigarette hole burns. I don't have underwear on. I have this like button-up shirt on, and I have these at one point in time nice pair of Brooks Brothers shoes, but I had lost a shoestring along the way because I would use it to shoot up with. So when I go to cop, the boys see fit to rob me.
And this is in Florida,
in Baltimore.
Baltimore. This is still in Baltimore.
Before I'm about to board that flight to Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, okay.
Right, and when they rob me, they rip my front and my back pockets completely out. I have no underwear on. My dick and my ass are completely exposed. They rip my shirt open, and the only button that stays buttoned is this very top button. And I got these shoes on one shoestring, and now I'm roaming the streets of West Baltimore looking like a gay East LA cholo gangbanger, right? And all I have is 8 scarves, 2 jackets, 3 socks, a stick of deodorant, right? I don't have the ability to change clothing. That's all I have.
Yeah.
So I get to the airport, because I'm on a tight timeline. I got to make this flight this broad bought me. And when I get to the airport, 2 things I've learned in my career is I will never win an argument with a judge or a TSA airport security agent. So I get there and I was not clever enough to say, you know what, things are bad enough, I'm going to tap out, right? What happened is I had to be divinely inconvenienced. In such a way where the God of my understanding showed up and created a big enough gap between me and the last speedball that I injected to my arm to allow me to have a moment of clarity to see what my life really looked like was. And this is where that happened. And it was all unbeknownst to me, right? I had no clue this. So I go to the airport and I get in line, and I don't want to board this flight. I do not. It's like I'm a psychic and I can predict my future. And I know that if I get on this flight, things are going to get real bad, right? Living in a hotel with a stripper in Fort Lauderdale. I'm about to get in with some seedy people that I do not know how to operate. And I'm over my head.
So when she said the book changed her life or saved her life, she's just full of shit.
Clearly, I mean, she's in this hotel room, like getting me my drugs to fly. Now, I never made it, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But what happens is I have that same outfit on. I can't change.
Right.
And the lady looks at me. She says, Mr. Novak, are you under the influence of anything? And I say, no, absolutely not. And she says, I believe you are. You will not fly for 3 days. Not like the next flight out tomorrow morning. Now, mind you, I did not. My heart was beating like I just shot 20 kilos of cocaine. I did not want to get on that flight. If I went on that flight, I knew that like I'd probably end up in that plot that my mother bought me. Like it was serious.
Yeah.
But my disease is like, I don't give a what you feel, bitch. Like you'll get on this flight.
Right.
So I get out of that line. And I called my sponsor and I said, Lex, I'm stranded at BWI airport and I want to kill myself. And he said, nah, you're going to get on a train. You're going to come back to Philly. And those people that I wanted no part of, that I thought were just a big group of my fathers, you know, sober addicts and alcoholics. Memorial Day 2015, they left their cookouts, they left their families, they left their homes, and they came and they showed up for this helpless, hopeless alcoholic who couldn't draw a sober breath to save his life. And they allowed me to stay with them that night. And they took me back to the same facility I had been to 4 previous times out of my 13 overall attempts. And they wouldn't give me new clothes, right? Because my sponsor believes in you never get between an alcoholic and their bottom. You let them feel the repercussions from their actions. Like you said earlier, I don't get sober when shit's great, right? Like shit's got to be for me to like pay attention.
Right.
So I walk into this detox looking like the gay East LA cholo gangbanger, and I'm doing my assessment. And prior to this date, every time I'd sit with the same intake coordinator, and she'd say, okay, Mr. Novak, your insurance will cover you for 90 days. And without fail, my rebuttal would be, in theory, 90 days sounds great, but in reality, I'm more of like a 45-day-ish kind of guy. Right? Like I got people to see, women to places to go, and she'd laugh at me like that each and every time. And this day, Memorial day, 2015. I had finally been demoralized in just such a fashion from drugs and alcohol. I was beaten in that state of reasonableness that when she gave me that offer without fail for the first time in my life, and thank God, I was beaten speechless by my disease. I couldn't even talk. Your insurance covered you for 90 days. I couldn't come back with a counteroffer. All I could do was shake my head yes, because if I said no, it entailed an explanation, and I was that beaten. And she said, sweetheart, you're in no condition to do your intake. Get up to detox, and I'll see you in a week. And I take my gay East LA Cholo gangbanger outfit and the 8 scarves and the needle and the restraining order, and I walk up, and there's this tech who's always there every time I check myself, and he said, Mr. Novak, you're back. And I said, aren't you a fucking genius, boy? You don't miss a beat, do you? He said, Mr. Novak, I hate to inform you, but your clothes are not rehab oriented. You need some underwear. You need some sweatpants. You need some slides. And I had heard those weird sober say shit like a grateful alcoholic will never drink again. A grateful addict will never use again. And I didn't understand that until I started to understand it. And this is where that took place. He takes me in with him, and he said, come with me downstairs to the donations room. And he goes and he opens up these boxes, and he's thumbing through these boxes, and he's looking for some used underwear. And I'm praying to God that he finds them. And he doesn't. But what he does find is a pair of size 40 women's sweatpants with no drawstring, a woman's tank top, and a pair of size 13 Jesus sandals. Right. And in that basement, where things had gotten so bad, I had no idea they could go this low. Little did I know at that moment, my life was about to forever change and go in directions that I, as clever as I think I am, could never even dream of. The first thing that happened was when this weird boys handed me clothes that aren't even meant for a man and shoes not meant for my foot. I came to the realization that what I do know is I have no idea. And my very best thinking places me here. And the second thing that took place is when he handed me those clothes, I was overcome with a sense of willingness, unlike anything a human has ever or will ever be able to provide. Right? It had to come from this divine force. And what I know now, see, because I've remained sober long enough, consistently enough, that it's very easy for me to look back and recognize the synchronicity of every one of life's events that have led me right here to talk to you, that proved to me the God of my understanding has been doing so much bigger and so much broader than my feeble small mind could ever conceive of. And what happened was I had met the God of my understanding in the basement of that Catholic Charities rehab that cost me $2 to get into, face to face, as a kid hands me women's clothes in the form of a gift of desperation. The pain had become so great that I turned it into my purpose. And I went upstairs and I got a shower. I got that Baltimore City smell off me. Never so excited to put women's clothing on in my life. And I did what I had never done before, and I successfully completed that program.
Really?
Yeah.
How many months?
That was a 90-day program, 3 months in there. And then from there, I went and I lived in a sober living house for 1 year.
Really? Okay.
My get well job was washing dishes for $6 an hour at Mary Ann's restaurant, next to a 14-year-old kid. And I had heard about like humility, but it didn't make sense until it made sense. And I'm busting these suds for $6 an hour next to a 14-year-old kid after doing all this successful shit.
Right.
My brain's telling me that at the very least, I should be the president of the United States.
Really?
And little did I know, looking back, that job was like one of the main foundational blocks to who I've become today.
You mentioned this in other interviews I've seen of you, where you had this sort of bizarre over sense of confidence, like where you mentioned the president of the United States thing, or like this was like something that you've kind of dealt with over the years, is just having like delusions that you're great beyond what you actually are. Like what is that?
Well, that's the thing with alcoholics and addicts, and this is what I can say about everyone that exists, that's out there, sober or not today, that we don't get here because we took the short bus to school. Yeah. Quite the contrary. I get to where I'm at because I'm too smart for my own good. And then I land in a position or a chair, whether it's in a 12-step meeting or a treatment center, that has the ability to save my life. And I outthink myself right out of it. Because recovery is one of these things that works so well, I stop doing it. Right? I get back everything I wanted in abundance. paired with this delusional alcoholic brain that lies to me. If I don't remain proactive in my recovery, then I'll fall victim to believing that like things could be different this time.
When you're washing dishes at this place, and you inevitably have the urge to go get drugs and do drugs and live this life, you were 100%. You never even felt tempted?
Nope.
Really?
And where that came from, right? The last thing I tried, the first thing that worked was the thing that they had been suggesting in every goddamn program I checked myself into was the 12 steps. The 12 steps, right? I had to have a spiritual experience. It had to come from a power greater than myself, because logic doesn't stand a chance against my addiction. Do I know that I'm killing myself? Do I know that I'm destroying every relationship that I care about the most? Do I know that I'm pissing my career away? Yeah, but I don't have a say-so in this, right? Like, so I get in this place where I get into that work, not because I'm intelligent enough that like, this is it. I have a clear perspective on my reality and I'm going to change my life. No, I got there because I had ran out of all options. There were no more opportunities, no more resources. Everyone, friends, family, loved ones, lovers said, get the away from me. And I'm in this place where I had nothing but time. I had no distractions, nothing to divert me from my primary purpose, right? Which was to try to figure out how to, it's easy to get sober. I could never stay sober.
But when you got clean that time, what year was that?
That was 2015.
Okay. And how long does it take for your mom to accept that you're not full of shit anymore?
She, on my 1 year anniversary, right? I had been to a treatment center years before. And there was an anniversary in this treatment center, meaning someone was celebrating a year. And I'll never forget it. The kid's mother came and she sat on the front row and she put her hand up and shared about how proud she was of her son. And my mother is everything to me. And I literally had dreamt of having that experience while in addiction. All I wanted was just to make my mother proud and to know that like she doesn't have to worry about her son anymore. But I never believed it was a reality. And on my 1 year anniversary, a terrible thing happened within my family that someone committed suicide, and someone in my family that swore they would never ever speak to me again, and hadn't to that point. I started making the amends, right, and I started like righting my wrongs, and I'm living differently, and it's pretty evident that things are changing. But this person, like, they had hit that point where it's like, F you, and I get it. But on my 1 year anniversary, I was going back to celebrate that night in Philly. I was in Baltimore spending time with my mother. And this incident occurred where this family member took their life by suicide. And that person who swore they would never speak to me called me and said, "Where are you? I need you to bring mom to this house where they were at." The person had sent out this text, and I'm sorry kind of text. And the family members rushed there. And when they rushed there, the person was hanging, and the police came, and the police refused to let the family members leave because it was an active crime scene. And I showed up with my mother, and I was able to convince the police to allow them to leave. And I cleaned up the damage that they caused by breaking the window out to get in the house, and I cleaned all this stuff up. And it was at that point, through the living amends, that the barriers came down, and my family really accepted me. And I have this letter framed in my house, and I walk past it every day. My mother, I was supposed to celebrate that night. Obviously it didn't happen, so they postponed it. And the following week I celebrated, and my mother came, and she sat in that front row, and she read this letter that she handwritten, and it said that no one was sure of what I would do because I had attempted to get sober for so long, but a tragic event took place, and for the first time, Brandon showed up as the son that I raised him to be, and he was there for the family members, and he didn't want anything in return, and that's when we knew that something was different.
Wow!
On my 1 year anniversary, that happened.
Holy shit, that's serious, man.
You know,
wow.
I've never shared that story.
Wow.
Ever.
No, I appreciate it. That's crazy, man. I mean, was it really like you had just shifted as a human? Because I feel like anything that you quit, even like, even when I think about like, times where I've been like on a strict diet for like a long period of time. And then sometimes your brain just locks into ice cream mode and you just kind of like, it's this like unthinking like trance that you sort of fall into where you actually go and eat the thing that you've been not eating for this long period of time. Was there any like risk of that? Did it feel, were you scared of that like something was just going to take over you and this like lack of willpower was just going to have you falling back into it? Or had things really just shifted to the point where you just didn't have that same temptation?
That is what happened, and how that happened. Everything had shifted and my perspective of life changed. And how that happened was I couldn't outthink myself out of addiction. That was evident, right? Again, logic doesn't stand a chance. But I got into those 12 steps, right? And the 12 steps allowed me to have a spiritual experience. The definition of a spiritual experience is simply a psychic change. So throughout that process and that journey I went on, I rewired my brain. So I, Brandon Novak today with over 10 years sober, no longer act, but more importantly, react to life the same way. So I completely look at things in a totally different manner. And the most important thing that happened is, and it talks about in our teachings, that it has to be a power. It has to come from a power greater than ourselves to lift us of the obsession or rid us of the desire to continue to want to drink or drug.
Is your attitude like, you know, say there's a skate premiere.
Yeah.
You go to the skate premiere, it's at a bar a lot of times. There's a couple hundred dudes, almost all of which are drinking at the bar. Is your attitude like, I'm going to avoid that because that's not a good place for me? Or is your attitude like, I'm gonna be in there and I'm strong enough that I'm not gonna feel triggered by that?
That's it, right? Like I've experienced this freedom unlike anything I've ever understood existed. I'm no longer a bondage of self or my addiction. And here's why. Because I accept that I suffer with a disease called alcoholism, not alcoholism. So I can't stay sober on yesterday's sobriety. I do a few simple things along the way each day. And if I do what I did yesterday, today, I have a really strong shot of seeing tomorrow sober. So it's very simple. And they taught me this shit in treatment. If I stick to the basics, I'll never have to go back to the basics. So I do a handful of things on a daily basis. You know, the upkeep, right? It's like you create a successful business. It's not going to run if you don't do a checks and balances and look at the inventory and take stock of what you have an abundance of that's selling like crazy or what's just sitting on the shelf and collecting dust. So it's that. It's just the general upkeep. And now what it all relies on is God. Like my higher power. I'm as spiritual as they get.
Do you believe in God throughout your addiction, or is this something that kind of came into focus after?
It doesn't matter. You know, like I don't have time to wonder about God. I pray to it like when I'm going in the hole to cop and I don't want to get robbed or I don't want to get locked up or I don't want to be violated. So I find God in those tough positions. But, you know, I got sober and I wasn't that guy. It's like, oh, God, how could God do that to me? That paled in comparison to the fear that I felt of returning back to active addiction. So like if I walked in that last treatment center and you gave me a knife and said, look, go carve a swastika in your forehead and stand on your head naked and jerk off for a week, I'd be like, point me to the spot, right? Like I just knew that my way no longer worked and I needed direction from someone that was more versed in the subject that I fell short in every time.
Definitely.
Which is what you said, the mentors, right? Who I walk with is what I do.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah, no, one of the issues that I have the biggest problem with is being vulnerable. I can do it with a room full of strangers. I can give a talk to 10,000 people and tell you my deepest, darkest secrets. But like, let me be a part of your unit and we do this thing called life together. I'm a 46-year-old single man that lives with 3 cats.
Is that something you aspire to, or do you think that you were just kind of built to be a soul actor?
There's a few different ways I could look at this. And one could be I'm just justifying the shortcomings that I have because I don't want to address a very uncomfortable situation. Or it's that I'm right in this regard. I am obsessively obsessed with what I do, right? And because of that, I don't make for a very good partner. I don't run my schedule by people, and I'm not considerate of their time or thinking. And that could completely change. Or it's just that I don't want to do the work that it takes to overcome my shortcomings. But here's another thing that happened. I lacked self-esteem. Self-esteem was non-existent. And I knew it. You told me that. And how could I have it? I'm like shooting dope. I'm stealing from people I love. I'm breaking people's heart. Like there's nothing good to feel about that. And so I come in and I lack self-esteem, but I start doing some esteemable shit that then gives me this sense of self-esteem. Then I get into that work, the 12 steps, which did for me what nothing else was ever able to do. And I start to fuck around and like myself. And then I start to like love myself. And now I'm like completely head over heels with who I am and where I'm at. And I don't really feel like I need someone to like validate the direction I'm headed or whatever it is. And that's a blessing and it's a curse because I'm 46 years old. I'm blessed with an amazing career. I'm a boss. I can kind of create my schedule and I live in my own world and I can structure it as that. So it's really hard to let someone come in and like move things around.
I feel it. So, okay, by the time you get sober, you already have a book.
Yeah.
When do you decide, like, you know what, it's time for another book now that I'm kind of on the other side of this?
I wrote the second book, The Streets of Baltimore, while in treatment.
Okay.
And it wasn't, you know, my co-author came to me and was like, dude, we really got to do this. People were asking. The first book, Dream Seller, was recently revised in its 12th.
Okay. I was thinking that too. I'm like, it's going to be kind of weird if you're putting this book out as if you're still in that state. Yeah,
totally. I mean, that was revised in its 12th edition. And in the literary world, you know, 98% of books don't make it past their first. And it's new covers, new epilogues, new endings. And then that also happened along the way. It really stoked on this first ever addiction graphic novel.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like,
and there's crazy stories that didn't fit in the books, done by this artist in Germany. And, you know, of me spending time at Tony Hawk's house as a kid with Bucky and other ones where I'm just strung out and I fall through a shooting gallery floor in an abandoned house into this basement where there's no stairs to get out of and water's like up to my chest and there's fucking rats. And so just crazy, you know, graphic novel kind of stories.
Definitely. So, okay, you wrote that other book while you were in treatment. Do you have thoughts that you feel like you have another book in you? Like, is there another edition of wherever you are as a human being that you might want to get out?
Easily is, but I just don't have the energy or time right now. You know,
it's kind of writing is kind of inefficient in comparison to doing podcasts where, you know, if 100,000 people see this, never mind, you know,
in an hour span.
Yeah. And never mind, like if people decide like, oh, we're going to cut this up and put it on TikTok and it gets 5 million views or whatever. I mean, like that, I've known a lot of authors over the years who kind of just fell off with writing because the podcasting side of things just made way more sense for them. So
yeah, no, that makes complete sense.
Understandable. Yeah.
That book, Dream Seller, was inspired by kind of necessity through BAM, right? I wrote that, but I had read a book before that, A Million Little Pieces. James Frey, does that ring a bell?
I honestly kind of feel like I read that back.
He was on Oprah's book club and then he got called out because there were some fabrications.
Yes. Oh, I remember this. Yeah.
It turned into a movie.
Yeah.
So full circle moment. James is a dear friend of mine now. And I literally used the same outline that he wrote his in with 12 chapters. I did that with mine. And years later, I became friends with James, and recently I was given this award in New York City at this thing called DopeyCon, and I took the award and then gave it to James, and was like, dude, if it wasn't for your book, like I wouldn't have had any direction how to write mine, and we become really good friends. And the book, why I love it, there's a lot of reasons, but because it's really prevalent in jails and rehabs. It's like, you know who I don't want to break the anonymity, but I met this guy last night who's a big guy and very, very known. And I didn't know as I'm talking to him. And he's saying, I was in prison and I read your book. And it starts with me talking about letting that guy blow me. Right? Something I swore I would never do. And I'm writing it. While I'm writing it, Bam's like, just be honest, act like no one's going to read it. Bare your soul. And I do that. And last night I speak at this meeting and there's this guy who puts his hand up and he shares after I'm done talking. And he said, look, your book, you know, I always like followed your career because you were as much of a up as I was. And then I was in prison and I read your book talking about that and the courage that it took. And I'm not putting two and two together who he is, but I see him leave and he gets into like this McLaren and I'm like, huh. And I get a DM later and this guy is like a someone that I really respect and is insanely intelligent. So there's a whole bunch of those things throughout my life. But more importantly, I don't want to say proving people wrong, but proving that failure is not an option and no is unacceptable and that you can do or become anything you want if you put your mind to it. And I got my GED in the penitentiary. I am not a high school graduate. But today I get paid to speak in universities. So what they say, there's not a one way to go about anything, and that's what Dream Seller has provided me the opportunity to do.
When was the first time you got paid to go somewhere and speak about addiction? Like when did that kind of become part of it? Because you do that a lot now, right?
I do. Well, now I'm really consumed. I own drug and alcohol treatment centers. I just opened my second one up last week in New Jersey.
Wow. Okay.
Which is kind of what I'm doing all this stuff about, to promote Redemption Addiction Treatment Center. And so I have 2 of those and I have 7 sober living houses with 70 beds.
Wow.
But speaking is what I love to do. But what I do at my facilities, I don't speak so much because it takes me away from where I love to be, which is my facilities. And I run the 9 a.m. group every day at my Delaware location. And then I drive to Jersey and I run the 1 p.m. every day. Wow. And I'm really hands-on. And that's what sets my program apart from the billion of others. Right? I could easily franchise it in California, LA, Utah, in Oregon.
Right, because
I can't be there.
The rehab space, I'm not even remembering anything super specific, but I've definitely heard people theorize or accuse them of being super for profit and kind of doing up shit to keep people in there that maybe shouldn't be there. Is that something you were aware of and you wanted to sort of right those wrongs with your rehabs, or what's the deal with that?
What I wanted to do was create a treatment center that I would sit in and go through and feel like it was the most conducive thing for a guy who can't draw a sober breath. So when I created my environments, my establishments, Redemption's Addiction Treatment Center, I created it as if I was going to be a client sitting in this chair. How would I feel about that employee saying hello to me? Right? Because my behavior was like my father's, right? Erratic and sporadic at best, and you never knew what you were going to get. So I literally designed it and I created a place where the employees and the clients want to be at, as opposed to feel like they have to be at, because we don't get there on a winning streak. Yeah. Right. And so I'm there 5 days a week when I'm not traveling. I'm so invested. And what happens is, because they're a lot like me, where they don't believe in themselves, but if I continue to show up for them and I believe in them long enough for them to start walking around and believing in themselves, then they want to be a part of this amazing life they're starting to be blessed with. Right. So on days when they don't want to show up, they're like, Novak drives 40 minutes one way every morning when he doesn't need to, and has a staff that completely can take care of this. And it hopefully makes them think twice before giving up on themselves, like I always did.
Is there ever any kind of weirdness mentally in terms of balancing the incentives between just wanting to get people sober and then running a business where you want to make money?
Totally. Yeah. When I first started this, I'm like, I want to help everybody. Everyone deserves a chance. Everyone, and they do, right? But
if you didn't care about money, you just fill the place up with a bunch of addicts off the street.
I can open the doors right here, put a bus in full. Yeah, right. 70 beds like that. Yeah, in 20 minutes. But
also those people are. Realistically, almost none of them are going to be ready for the treatment, right? So it's kind of even the money and being able to pay for it in some ways kind of pre-qualifies you as somebody who's going to sort of take it serious, right?
You would think a little more skin in the game, right? A part of their process. So life has a way of right sizing me, and I love being proved wrong, and I love being right sized, because I think 10 years sober and very happy with where I'm at, and a very nice life, that I know some shit. And the reality is I don't, and it's all God and higher power. But so what happens is, Fuck, what was the question? I totally veered off.
The incentives of charity versus business.
Yeah. So I want to help everybody. And then I open a business, right? And now I have to make payroll. Yeah. I have to pay the mortgage. I have to pay the staff who are providing help for these clients. So if I don't have any paying clients, how the fuck am I going to pay the staff to continue to give this free help away? Right. So I kind of learned how to like navigate through that, which that wasn't ever a thought or concern on my radar before, but it's impossible for things not to evolve as long as I continue to show up and want to actively better myself. Right. So my perspective on reality changes regularly.
Definitely. And
they told me if I change my perception, I could change my world.
Right.
And I learned that my mentality will create my reality. So if I said, yes, if I want to be a fucking brain surgeon, I could be a brain surgeon. The fact. I would just have to give it the attention and respect it deserves. Become a student of the teachings, talk to other brain surgeons, sign up for whatever it takes, and we could do that.
I have that feeling about stuff, but I also feel like there are some things that would just be so hard for me to learn because I feel like my brain is tuned to a certain skill set. If I wanted to become a math professor, do I think that I could do that? I mean, shit, I probably got 30, 40 years left on earth, maybe, but that's probably the hardest thing I could.
Yeah, and I don't want to be, God forbid, I don't want any part of it, but like straight up, but more importantly, I've learned what I know today, but I've really learned what the I don't know.
Yeah.
So I stay in my lane and I don't try to portray this. When I'm working with my clients, I don't give them hypothesis or educated guesses of what could or couldn't happen. I simply tell with you what my 22-year bout with drinking and drugging looked like and suggest that if you can find more similarities than differences, it might make sense to pay attention. But if not, that's cool too. I get it. Because it's really between you and your higher power if this information is going to take for you to like look at it a little differently.
For sure. Steve-O got sober before you?
Yeah, he's fucking great.
Was he somebody that was communicating with you while you were getting clean and everything? Or what was he telling you before you even made the decision?
Well, we partied together for a long time.
Right.
And he was insane.
I have these images of him surrounded by nitrous canisters that's kind of seared into my brain, that iconic photo.
When we were doing the gumball rally in Europe one time, and he would always like to get people into his hotel room and then just play footage of himself and lock people in his room while doing nitrous.
Yeah.
And I remember he had like me and Bam in his room, and you walk in and the bathroom is here, and then it's the bed, and he has his from his waist up is in the bathroom, and as he's huffing nitrous, and so we have to step over his legs, and he's got his laptop set up on the bed, and he's making us watch him, but he's holding us hostage so we can't get the fuck out. Like he's insane. And then he got sober, and he was one of those people that I was like, dude, if he can do it, I can do it. And I just kind of like really remember his story had depth and weight. I had partied with him, and then I saw him get sober, and then I went around when he was sober and I wasn't. And he didn't really change that much, but I watched him navigate through, and I paid very close attention, and it gave me a little belief in myself.
I saw a clip of you on his podcast where it seemed like you guys kind of have different ideas about being like a sober influencer, for lack of a better term, or whatever, where he actually said that that's almost like his worst nightmare, or the last thing that he would want for his life is for his identity to be entirely wrapped up in him being sober. It feels like it's kind of important for him to have that be part of his story, but not the whole thing. And it was kind of an interesting podcast clip, because I was kind of like, well, you are kind of describing a large percentage of what Brandon is spending his life on. Have you, like, what is that relationship like? Or do you understand where he's coming from with that mentality?
100%. I do. And here's the truth about me. There's two things I loved more than anything in this world, and it was skateboarding and drugs and alcohol. And therefore I was that guy that was going to die. And I could not get enough drugs. I couldn't use enough drugs. I couldn't make them last long enough. So for a guy like me to be removed from that life that I just wanted to fucking not wake up for on a daily basis, I can't get enough gratitude in my heart, paired with the fact of how much I love drugs and alcohol, that like today I'm just as consumed by drugs as I was if not more. The only difference is I don't use them, and I'm provided a beautiful life from them. And it's like my poison has become my medicine. And for that, it doesn't really matter much what the anyone thinks about where I'm at. Ask my mother if she's happy with her son today, and that's what allows me to sleep peacefully.
Yeah.
And I'm still, I talk to Steve often, and we're great. And that's the cool thing about sobriety is it allows us to have choices and options. I'm not into like doing comedy. I'm not a stand-up comedy, so like that I wouldn't want that to be my life, but that's what Steve loves. And right for that. And he's a guy that I aspire to be like on so many different levels, man.
Yeah, no, it is amazing. Just to honestly seeing him. And then even like, I remember one night watching, 5 epically later in a row or some shit and just realizing like every dude I just watched has the same story. Like get into skateboarding in your teenage years, get really, really good at it, get sponsored, get money, get into drugs and alcohol to the point where you're really up for a long time, and then you have to get sober, and then you kind of return to skating, and maybe you're not as good at skating as you once were, but you're at least really fucking happy to be here.
Yeah.
It's like such an unbelievably consistent story in skateboarding that you would kind of hope that the younger generation wouldn't keep having to learn it for themselves, which maybe to some extent that has caught on, like the younger generation does seem less interested in drinking. But yeah, I mean, it's such an unbelievable consistent story. And even BMX, same thing. I interviewed a guy, Ryan Mills, a few years back who, oh, you know him?
Yeah.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We the Vegas guy, right?
Yeah.
So he's a sober guy, and his anniversary's on my anniversary.
Really?
Wow. And like we're friends through that.
I didn't know that. Yeah, because his story is like,
shout out Ryan.
He blows his knee out, and he was a pro that I was watching when I was a kid, just seeing him in magazines and shit. He blows his knee out, gets a script.
Yeah.
Everything's over. Fast forward a few years, he's like robbing designer stores with a big crew of other drug addicts and shit, like crazy, and I know other dudes in BMX, exact same story.
Yeah, it's the same pattern, just different, like, it's dressed up differently, whether it's a skateboard or but that full circle moment, talking about like, is it still like that world? Are they still, and I say the same thing. I'm like, I don't see people drinking or drugging like I did. And it's changed. And then I have to ask myself, has it changed or have I changed? And I'm just seeing things differently, but I'm not in the skate culture nearly like I was.
Right.
But I don't think that it's as much as what it used to be when I was there.
Yeah. I mean, I think like with the spread of information on the internet and stuff, a lot of stuff that was very alluring in the culture, and when I say the culture, I mean like the overall culture, some of that tends to go away with more information being present. Like I feel like in hip hop, the streets don't hold the same intrigue that they used to, because everybody's got enough information to realize like, oh, you get into trafficking drugs or killing people or whatever, that you're going to go to prison for 30 years or, and hey, all these guys that are telling you that they're super gangster pretty much like snitched on each other or whoever they were doing crimes with, like, and so then now you'll have an Instagram post about some rapper getting busted for some criminal shit that 20 years ago probably would have got a lot of praise for just being real or whatever. And the younger audience now is just like, wow, what a dumbass.
You're right. They see
your life up. Yeah.
Like, ignorance is bliss, right? And we have like the internet and we have access to this information to where we're accountable. And it's harder to stay stuck on stupid today.
Yeah.
Because you know.
Yeah.
Right. And I also think that in today's age and society where we're at, that it's kind of like right now at this moment. And as you know, the older I get, things shift quickly. But it's rad to be like a better version of yourself. Like it's not, I don't think, or maybe I'm just so jaded by my own shit, but being sober is looked at as like a commendable thing, and like or just yoga or finding a practice with a spirituality or whatever it is, just to be a little bit better of a version of yourself.
Stuff that hadn't really even crossed our minds. When we were younger.
Like people were like, damn, I find that intriguing or admirable.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm a better version of me. Like I am an asset today to anything that I'm a part of, whether it's friends, family, business. Like I bring something to the table. And from that business perspective, those are the people that I want around, because there's too many liabilities otherwise.
Are there like a variety of different scenarios that you've like tried to prepare yourself for? Because I feel like that's part of getting sober, right? Is that you need to imagine the worst trigger that you could ever have, and then try to picture how you're going to react and how you're not going to give in to the trauma.
For sure. Great question. And, I've never been asked that, but it is, and I have, and it's, my mother's 83. Right. And there's going to come a time, absolute fact. And so what I do is I listen when other people talk and talk about losing their significant other or the mother. And then I hear that they make it through it. And I continue to strengthen my relationship with God, man. And that's everything. Yeah. And so like, I know that I will be okay. Is it something that I want, or that I'm like, fuck no, but like, that's the importance of building that foundation that I talked about in the beginning. Right. Without this foundation and being honest with self, what I say to you or on this podcast, with self, then I will not have that foundation that will be capable of weathering the storms that are coming, not if, but when. Right? Because just because I got sober doesn't mean like the world becomes a fucking magical place where no pain happens.
Right.
That's insane. So yeah, and she's not getting younger, and she's getting sick here and there, and
right.
So
yeah, it's like,
but I know that I'll make it through it.
Yeah. Just gotta like, I feel like you want to try to imagine this kind of thing beforehand to try to like wrap your head around what it might be like to go through that.
I have, and I do.
Yeah.
And I more so more these days, because she's not getting younger.
If I have somebody in my life, and Lush, I'm about to subtweet you here, but if you have, I have somebody in my life who, when he first came on this podcast, was sober. And now, I won't claim to know exactly what he's doing, but I know he's drinking. I know he's doing probably Molly, and I don't know exactly what he's doing, but definitely comes in here looking like he's been up all night sometimes. Definitely, still does a pretty good job as a podcaster regardless. But, I see the toll it takes on him, and I worry about him. But also, I'm kind of jaded in the sense of like, I know I can't make that decision for him. He's been to rehab a lot of times over the years and shit like that. What would be your general advice in terms of how I should approach having somebody in my life who is still struggling?
That's a really tough question, because it's such a case by case scenario. And there's so much that goes into that, the relationship, what your guys' experience with your time together look like, and the dynamics of whatever his deal is. But for me, what I do with people in that place is I challenge them to ask themselves this question: if drugs or alcohol are the answer, then what the f is the question, right? And looking back, why did I feel the need to ingest a drink or a drug to change the way I feel internally about my external situations, right? And if I could have figured that out, I could have avoided a lot of agony and prolonged pain and broken relationships, lost trust. But ultimately, on the other end of that spectrum, I had to be entitled to my own process. And looking back, if anybody would have interrupted or changed my process, I very well might not be the child of God that I am today. Meaning one less like arrest, one less violation, one less night of my behaviors making my mother cry herself to sleep. Right. So it's a case by case.
It's kind of crazy how
sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just going to say, it's kind of crazy how resilient the human body is, that you were torturing yourself for all those decades, and that, you seem fine, like, I don't know. I haven't talked to your doctor, but I'm guessing that somehow doing all that shit for 20 years didn't really, you up that bad. I don't know. I'm sure you feel it in some ways.
I can't. I had hepatitis. Went on medication for that. That's no longer detectable. Waking up in the ICU was a regular occurrence. It's strictly nothing less than God's grace and mercy. I have plenty of friends that did what I did for as long as I did, and the amount that I did, that have died. Right? Like that's the only way that I can explain it. And I believe that I was intended to go through that to then be this guy who has devoted his life to helping people who are where I once was. And in doing that process, it helps me stay sober.
Definitely.
Right? But it also takes a toll. There's times I get tired of talking and talking about it or me. And so I've become somewhat of an introvert too. You know what I mean? And the older I don't like loud noises. I don't like groups of people. So I'm kind of just chill and happy with like the simplicity of life.
Yeah.
You know?
No, definitely. Yeah. It's like when you think about that younger partier life, like I had FOMO every night that I didn't get a chance to go out with the guys or whatever, you know, like, 'cause I know dudes who have been going out and drinking and doing coke or whatever for like, 30 years. They're like in their 50s and they're still going out partying.
God bless them.
And I'm 41 and I'm just like, Jesus. When I see those dudes, I'm like, I really feel like I hit my my limit, because I totally just stopped drinking and doing coke and shit in like 2019.
Sick.
And I just like look at him and I'm like, how the are you still hanging on? Like, I just feel like I would just have a heart attack if I was in any way consuming as much substances as you. But yeah, I mean, I feel like at this point, it's just like so much easier to just appreciate the little stuff of just waking up feeling pretty good, going to sleep feeling pretty good. Anytime anybody's ever like offered me a line of coke or something over the last however many years, it's just kind of like, I feel good right now. And if I do that, I'm going to feel a little better for a little bit, for like 15 minutes. And then I'm going to feel noticeably worse.
Legit.
And then I'm going to kind of feel like noticeably worse for like a couple hours after that. And that's if I have the self-control to not do a bunch more of it.
Which is slim to none.
Yeah, which is just like...
You give me one line, I just want to punch you in the face.
Yeah, which in comparison right now, I feel fine. And I think I'm just going to hold on to that.
Legit. And it goes back to it's easier to stay sober than get sober.
Yeah.
Right? Like I could stop. Stopping was not the problem. I couldn't stay stopped because there's no consistency in my life.
Yeah.
And now that I have been able to do that for a significant period of time, I've been able to endure the early stages of recovery, which are like a bipolar roller coaster ride from hell. Because I could be above heaven high and the wind can blow wrong and I'm below hell low. And I don't know how the fuck that just happened. But I've endured those trying times to where I have this life today that is so beautiful, and I'm so grateful for that. And this is the blessing, that the thought of sniffing that line of blow or shooting that bag of dope or having that glass of wine is insane to me.
Yeah.
And that's not the way that I was wired. I mean, I have a tattoo on my arm. It's where's my needle? Oh, there it is. Like, I love to fucking get...
Got that when you were still in the middle of everything?
Totally.
You got Alf right there too.
Yeah, dude. What's the creator
Alf,
of
from the sitcom that many people watching this might not remember, but shout out to Alf.
My very first, dude, and the creator of that, did you read his book?
Name?
I was just talking about it last night. The book is called Permanent Midnight.
Okay.
Look it up. And this will make sense to you now since you loved Alf like that.
Oh yeah.
When he created that, he was smoking insane amount of crack and doing tons of heroin. And that's how Alf came about, of this UFO thing from Malmac that always wanted to eat the cat. And he was on crack and heroin. And then they made a movie to it. And
Jerry Stahl. Okay.
And Ben Stiller played Jerry Stahl, which is crazy to think.
Really?
You got to read the book, you'll love it, or the movie, which it pales in comparison.
I have this memory of being, I guess I was 3 or 4, like when my sister was born. And my dad, while we were at the hospital, said, let's go to Toys R Us. We're going to get a toy for your baby sister, like, because she's about to be born in the next day or so. And I went to the store with him and I tried to buy an Alf doll. Yeah. And he was like, that's going to be too scary for a newborn baby. It's weird. He maybe get something that was more age appropriate. I remember being like 3 and being like, oh shit, okay. My dad's pretty smart. He knows that Alf is appropriate for this moment. Yeah.
Dude, I have an Alf doll at my house.
Yeah. He ate cats.
I know, which I love cats.
Me too.
My end game is to open a cat sanctuary. Really? I'm a cat fanatic.
Ooh, what about Cat Cafe? You ever been to one of them?
I love them. I go to them to give money to support the cats because they use them to adopt the cats out. Okay. So they're fun.
I only been to it in I think I tried to go to a cat cafe in Japan, and then we ended up going to one that had all kinds of other weird animals.
That's fitting for Japan.
Yeah, I think they have cat cafes in LA now.
I saw them. I went to one in San Diego.
Really?
But yeah, that's my end game. I believe I was a cat in my past life.
Really?
I like to pick and choose who I give my attention to. I like to leave when I want to leave. I eat the same thing every day when I'm not traveling, and I keep odd hours.
I think when I first got a cat, I felt like it made me have like a very sincere sense that everything was going to be okay. Because they wake up, they don't accomplish anything all day. It's just like, if I can get some food, enough to live, then I'll be all right.
Yeah.
Occasionally want a little bit of cuddles.
Yeah.
But then, the day ends and they're okay. It's
and they're
fine.
just happy.
Everything is okay. Yes. Whereas like I've always kind of had this thing in my head of like, no, you have to become this. You have to succeed at this. You always have to be growing and learning. And somehow the cat, I find it kind of soothing. Actually, as soon as my daughter was born, a couple months later, my cat of 18 years, we had to put him down.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
And now, various allergy issues in my house. So I haven't been able to get a cat. Now I got 2 dogs, which a little less soothing, but they're cool.
Yeah. I have this sign in my house and it says, pay attention to the little things because one day the little things become the big things. And I always thought it was the end objective that was the thing, the house, the accounts, the cars, the women. And looking back, it's none of that. It was the laughs had, the memories shared, the smiles given that are the thing.
Yeah.
I always overlook that.
I mean, looking back at my life, like I always think about this with my early 20s, that it's like I was 21 or whatever, living in New York City in an apartment that costs $150 a month, riding bikes every day outside.
That sounds epic.
Yeah, just meeting girls, just having fun every day. And it's like, I knew it was pretty good, but looking back at it, it's like, fuck, I wish I really grasped how good life was. And sometimes I think about that now too. Like I'm going to be 70 looking back at my life now. Like, holy, that was
this
good.
was the moment.
Yeah.
And we're just too worried about the thing. Yeah. I'm guilty of that.
You got to always be trying to reframe it and think about how you're pretty lucky to be here right now.
It's all, and as long as I can find this place of gratitude, then I'm very content with what's going on. But I'm wired to see, I'm so consumed by the mess that I miss the message.
Yeah.
I see what I don't have, why it's not how it should be, why I'm not where I believe I should be. And I'm missing like the blessing of having this really meaningful conversation that God willing will maybe help somebody along the way.
100%. A lot of times you don't realize that too until people are gone. And you're like, oh, I could have spent more time with them.
For sure.
It's like a lot of people's biggest fear is that they, even like your parents, like, I see my parents maybe every week or two. Feels pretty good, but I guarantee when they're gone, I'm going to be fucked up over not spending more time with them.
That's it. My mother, she's 83. I can't get enough of her. And there's days she doesn't. I wanted to get sober because I wanted a relationship with her. And I say to everybody, be careful what you ask for. Because like, if you get it, can you handle it? And now my mother will call me 20 times a day. She doesn't leave me alone. Sometimes I have to go back and like put her in the shower because she don't want to get a shower. And I have to remind myself on days when like I have to do shit that I don't want to do, that there's going to be a time where I would pray to feel angry at her because she's not listening to me tell her to get a shower. So it's just a reality check of what's really meaningful today. So every Saturday now I go back to Baltimore. I skate during the day for the mental health. Then I take her to that same church that she used to pray for me to, for God to cure me or kill me. And then I take her to dinner and it's the highlight of my week. Because I know that I'm going to be in this place where I could have spent this, or, you know what I mean?
Facts, man. Yeah, it was great getting a chance to talk to you. What are you working on right now? What do you really feel like you want to accomplish before you die? Like, what's the main stuff that's the most important to you at this point?
I just want to, for me, think less about myself and more about others. Right? If I continue to see what I can bring to the table as opposed to what I can get out of the scenario, with God's children that are my brothers and sisters, every one of them, not like the ones, even like the ones I don't like, right? Like, what can I bring to that table to make this weird thing called humanity or society a better place for everyone to want to be a part of? And that's really what I work hard to do, is to just give something that I have away. Right. And help with sincerity and honesty and be completely transparent. And that allows me to sleep better at night, but more importantly, prove to me that my mother is proud of me, which is all I ever wanted. That's all I wanted.
No, yeah, that's inspirational shit, especially just like hearing that there was this time in her life where, I mean, those words of, I'm not going to love you to death anymore.
Yeah.
Whew, that hit me during this conversation. Like that was serious, man. Like, you know, to see you on the other side of that it's a beautiful thing.
And because of that, you know, the unconditional love that she showed me, right? If somebody would have treated my mother the way I treated her, I would have killed them. And for her to totally ignore that and treat me with nothing but unconditional love, if I can be a 1% of who she is, like, I've arrived. And that's my objective today. I spent a lot of time trying to impress people that I didn't even know. Yeah. And at 46, hopefully grasping a pretty good perspective on what I think is the best for me. I'm cool with that.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you to everybody who watched this.
Thank you for giving me the time, and I've followed your journey. I know we have a lot of mutual friends, and I'm really glad that we got to sit down and have this genuine conversation. You're a good man.
No, I appreciate you too, man. Like, honestly, borderline burst into tears at a certain moment in that conversation. I held it back, but that shit with your mom, that last moment of desperation was just like, fuck, dude, you got me, man.
This wasn't my plan today to cry at a podcast. Here we go. No, but thank you, dude. You do a great job. I've watched what you do from afar, and you provide a platform for a lot of people, and it makes people think.
Oh yeah,
what you do makes people think. It does for me. I watch your stuff.
Appreciate it, man.
Like, damn, okay.
You're not related to BJ Novak, right?
No.
Okay.
He's amazing.
Yeah. As a lifelong Office fan, I got to give it to him. Yeah.
Straight up.
All right. Appreciate you, man. Brandon Novak. Everybody go check these books out. I'm sure they're on Amazon. I'm sure they're on your website.
And if anybody out there is struggling and wants help, right, and needs help in any capacity with addiction or alcoholism, I'm going to give you a number, and this number goes to me or my coworker, John. You'll get one of us. Call us, 610-314-6747. Let's get you the help you deserve if you feel like you're in need of it. If not, God bless, man.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate you.
Cheers.
No Jumper, coolest podcast in the world. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'll definitely be in there reading those comments. Appreciate y'all.